So we've had a look at the main events of Act 1, Scene 3. Let's look at the key quotes. And again, I'm always talking about building your knowledge of the play, learning a few quotes. You'll see them in the knowledge checks at the end of each video. There's so many brilliant quotes in this scene, so, learn as many as you can. First one, which I love, is the witch's comment. Though his bark cannot be lost, yet it shall be tempest tossed. It's a great quote. I have it in red rather than yellow because I don't think you'd learn it in 5th year, but it's a great one to have in your collection of quotes by the time you get into 6th year. Though his bark cannot be lost, yet it shall be tempest tossed. Now, what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about the story of the sailor. Hopefully you've read this in school. And the story is that there was a sailor's wife. She was eating chestnuts. The witch said, "Give me," quoth I. And the sailor's wife said, "All right thee, witch," which means feck off. So she asked for something. She was told no. And her response is she's going to destroy the sailor. But of course, Shakespeare's using the whole story of the sailor's wife and the storm that they will create to show us something about the witches, to show us how malevolent they are, that they would destroy a man's life simply because they were refused chestnuts. Their supernatural powers, they're able to manipulate the weather, travel across time and space against the laws of physics, but mostly so that Shakespeare can communicate the limitations of their powers. And that is his ship. The bark is his ship. Cannot be lost, but it can be tempest tossed. So what that is saying is they can create a storm, but they can't actually sink the ship. That's a limitation of their powers. Only he can sink the ship. So if they keep the storm going for a long time, the longer quote talks about how sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his penthouse lid, and if he's awake for ages, he will then eventually make the mistake and he'll sink the ship himself. So they will create the conditions for disaster, but disaster must come from human action. And that, of course, is a metaphor for what they do to Macbeth. They create the storm by telling him he's going to be king, by provoking his ambition, by tempting him, and then he goes and kills the king. They don't make him do it. So he sinks himself. The first quote you learn from this scene, Macbeth's first words, which echo the witches, as I said in the previous video. They end Act 1, Scene 1 by saying, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." He begins his appearance in the play. His first words are, "So foul and fair a day I have not seen." And we can see that connection between the witches and Macbeth from his first words. Banquo, he looks at the witches and he realizes that these guys are supernatural. He says, "Live you? Or are you aught that man may question?" So he shows a kind of a skeptical, a healthy skepticism of the witches. He sees that they're nasty. He has a good radar. He wants to stay away from them. It's interesting that Banquo is repelled by the witches, whereas Macbeth is attracted towards them. That again is indicative of one man's virtue and another man's corruption. The next quote you learn from this scene, so important. I know you know it already. "All hail Macbeth. Hail to thee, Thane." "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Glamis. All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor. All hail Macbeth, that shall be king hereafter." And of course, that is the prophecy. The prophecy that Macbeth will be king. All it is words. If he doesn't act, that's all it is. It's nothing. It's a nonsense. But they know his ambition. Another one of their supernatural powers is their ability to see into men's souls. And they can see that he's corrupt. They have X-ray vision into your soul. And that's why they pick Macbeth. Why not pick Banquo the 10th? Because he's not corrupt. They can see the corruption inside Macbeth. And when they see that corruption, they hit the target. Because Macbeth is startled by their words. Macbeth is frightened by their words. And Banquo notices, lovely example of juxtaposition here. Banquo notices that Macbeth's like, so they've just told him, "You're going to be the Thane of Cawdor," which means you're going to be even richer and have more glory and titles. "You're going to be the king," which is like the apex of the hierarchy in society. That sounds fair, that sounds great, but he reacts with fear. Now ask yourself, why does Macbeth react with fear? And the reason is because, obviously, he's previously been thinking about being king And he understands that the only way that he can be king is by killing the king. So the witches don't make Macbeth ambitious. He's already ambitious. What they do is they identify his ambition, and they identify Macbeth as a tool which they can use to achieve a goal. Their goal is simple, it's always the same: to disrupt the natural order. They look at Macbeth and they say, hooray, powerful and violent and corrupt. Let's tempt him and see how much disruption we can cause. Banquo, when he speaks to the witches, says, my noble partner, you greet with present grace and great prediction of noble having and of royal hope, that he seems rapt with all. Again, I think that's important. The reference to Macbeth, rapt, completely like stunned, lost in thought at this prediction. It shows the impact of the success of the witches' words, and the fact that they've identified him as a man who is, has this hidden ambition. And then Banquo asks them, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favours nor your hate. Now again, when you look at the Macbeth mind maps in 6th year, you'll see the Banquo mind map. He's a minor character, but that's a great quote because it shows that he is different from Macbeth. He's like Macbeth, he's a lord, he's brave, he's valued by his king, but unlike Macbeth, he is not tempted, and therefore the witches have no power over him. The witches' prophecies, so important. Again, this one to learn. Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none, is the prophecy to Banquo, saying your sons will be king, and that sows division between the two men. Banquo can't believe what he's heard. Were such things here as we do speak about, or have we eaten on the insane root that takes the reason prisoner? He's dumbfounded by what they've experienced. And then the great conclusion to the scene. Ross arrives in. He says, he, the king, bade me from him call thee Thane of Cawdor. Banquo brilliantly says, what? Can the devil speak true? So the devil is the witches, and there you can see the association of the witches as as the devil's agents. And Macbeth then, in an aside, in words that are supposed to be spoken by the actor to reflect what he's thinking on the inside, nobody else can hear him in the world of the play, he says, the greatest is behind. Now there, he's talking about the 3 predictions. What came first? All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Lambs. What came next? All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor. What came last, or in Shakespeare's language, behind those 2? King. So when he says greatest, we can see that the ambition is powerful and inside him. He wants to be the greatest. He wants to be the alpha. He wants to be the king. The witches have picked the right instrument. For me, the best quote in this scene, and it is a scene full of quotes that are important, but the best quote, and the one, it would go into your top 10 quotes to learn from the play, are Banquo's foreshadowing words. And oftentimes, to win us to our harms, the instruments of darkness, tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, to betray us in deepest consequence. Banquo is an insightful man. He's a good friend. He sees something in his mate that he doesn't want to really see. He sees that Macbeth might be tempted to do something stupid, and he warns his friend. The witches are the instruments of darkness. That means that they are the devil's agents. They're working for darkness. That's the devil. And he's saying sometimes the devil gives us little things, like a drug dealer gives a free sample of their drug to hook you in and destroy you. He's warning Macbeth, don't listen to them. Even if that first prophecy appeared to be true about you being Thane of Cawdor, don't listen to them. But of course, it's too late. Macbeth is not listening to Banquo. All he can see is that crown in front of him. We know that because in another aside, in actually a soliloquy, it's the first time I'm going to mention that word in the play, a long poetic speech in which Macbeth's private thoughts are revealed to the audience. In soliloquy, Macbeth says, 2 truths are told. What was the first truth? Thane of Lambs. He was the Thane of Lambs. What was the second truth? Thane of Cawdor. The king made him Thane of Cawdor. As happy prologues, so like as pleasant starters, to, and I love this, the swelling act of the imperial theme. And it's that adjective, the swelling act, that adjective noun combination. What's swelling is his ego, his pride, his sense of self-importance. He wants to be alpha. He is not, God hasn't picked him to be the king, but he dreams of being the king. And the witches' prophecies have him hooked. He is now set on his spiral. It doesn't come easy. He has a moral quandary. You'll see in the next scenes, he does struggle, but the witches are successful. The power of his ambition is enough to make him ignore all that he knows about justice and morality and ethics and make the decision to do what he needs to do to be king, which is to kill Duncan. He says, lying to himself, if chance may have me king, by chance may crown me without my store. He knows that's never going to happen. He has to act. He has to act if he's going to be king. Brilliant scene. Hopefully you found that useful.